time. Can we give it up, give it up, give it up for our own talk show host on tonight, Brother Michael Boyd II, Sister Jimmyra Boyd. Let's give it up.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord, everybody. Come on, I can't hear y'all. Praise the Lord, everybody. How many y'all glad to be in the house of the Lord on tonight? We want to welcome every one of you to another episode of Ye TV. Ye standing for Youth Empowerment Television. Clap your hands and give God some praise. All right, so tonight, our theme for tonight is going to be talking about no compromise. No compromise. We live in a day and time where there's a lot of things that's compromising our faith, compromising our relationship with God, and we want to stress the importance of having that solid foundation with God and knowing that you can achieve success both in church and in the world without selling your soul. Amen? Amen. Amen. And so we have a lot of great guests that's going to be coming on the show tonight. Is going to be talking about their background and sharing a little bit. Hopefully it'll be uplifting and inspiring. Are you excited, Sister Jimmyra?
I'm very excited.
All right, well, let's get started. Our first guest coming to us is a local judge here in Nashville, Tennessee. He is a great leader in the community, and we're going to ask him to come at this time. Please welcome Judge Russell Perkins. Yeah, give it up for our DJ, Chris Mundy. He's behind the scenes. So, Judge Russell Perkins, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. God bless you.
Good being here with us. We just want to open up, give you the floor a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background. What made you want to get involved in the judicial system?
Meet my wife, and she led me to the Lord when I was 19 years old. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be when I went to undergrad at Tennessee State University. I goofed off like most college students, but I tried to make sure my grades were at a certain level, even in going through I started off on a baseball scholarship at TSU, played 1 year, decided I needed to work, and I kept on. I had an opportunity to visit Ohio State Law School as a junior at TSU. As part of the visit, I applied. I just applied. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be. And I got accepted and got a scholarship. And when we got married, right after graduation, we decided to go up there. And went to law school. It was awesome. Worked 1 year in the Ohio Attorney General's office after law school. Came back, worked for the legendary Senator Avon Williams for about 12 years doing civil rights work, police brutality cases, employment cases with that firm, and also general civil practice. Then went to the State Attorney General's office, worked there for 14 years, did a lot of different things. I guess most notably the tobacco settlement, which is the largest settlement in Tennessee history. The Lord allowed me to be involved in that. And then in 2008, I was appointed by Governor Brotherson to be a judge, and then I've been elected and re-elected since.
I want to ask you, are there any issues with young people in particular that you see maybe on a regular basis that you just shake your head?
Well, more so in ministry and just being a granddad, being a part of the community. The kind of judge I am, I don't see many young people because I don't do criminal work. I do mainly complex business things and constitutional and governmental cases, that kind of thing here in Davidson County. So I don't do domestic relations. I don't do criminal cases where you might see younger people involved. Usually I'm dealing with a corporation. I'm doing contracts between country music stars constitutional claims and that kind of, it's fascinating work, but it's, I don't run into young people much, but in terms of dealing with the younger lawyers and the educated people, they have a different mindset when they come to the courtroom. They don't have the same respect we were taught to have for the judges when we go to the court. And they have a sense of entitlement. So if you don't give them everything they want, they're upset and all that. And it is a generational thing that we see. And you see a generational thing in just about every aspect of life, in politics, in the church. And whoever can unlock the generational divide, if older people, I'm 63, can learn how to really communicate with younger people, you can really help some people. You can really bless. Because what I found out is over many years of being a Sunday school teacher of teenagers, that is, as an older person, I see them doing things that look frivolous, perhaps. But when I sit down and talk with them, I find out they're thinking at a much higher level than I would have assumed on the outside looking in. But so we got to tap into that ability to have the exchange, to let the iron sharpen iron, so we can understand and find out, about the times and how we can be salt and light in this generation.
Amen. Now, as a black judge and even a black man climbing up the ranks of the judicial system, have you ever faced any challenges or hit any roadblocks or any racism trying to achieve your success in law?
Yes. It's inevitable, especially somebody my age, but it's still there. It's more subtle now. But you run into it from time to time. I have tried cases all over Tennessee. So that means I go to some of these little towns and end up trying a case before maybe an all-white jury. I tried a case once over in Jackson, Tennessee, where there were 9 whites and 3 blacks, and we had a hung jury, and the vote was down racial lines. The 3 blacks wanted to vote for my client, and the 9 whites against. And it seemed like a strong case on our end that I couldn't understand why there would be 9 votes on the other side. And you run into Senator Williams. I used to hear his stories. Of course, he was the law partner of Z. Alexander Luby, who had his house bombed every year around the time of Martin Luther King's birthday. Our law firm would start getting all these calls and threats and that kind of thing. And then, and so even now as a judge, you realize that there can be a different standard. But you don't have a chip on your shoulder. You just know what you're dealing with, and you strive for excellence. And in anything you do, if you don't have integrity, it doesn't matter really how gifted or how talented you are. You're not going to please God if you don't have integrity. Like for now, tonight I'm here for something that's unrelated to work. I've got a legal pad, but I pay for it with my own money. I don't do my sermons on government property. I got my own ink pen that I pay. So it starts with little things, but the big things are important too. And see, okay, so I'm a judge now. I'm here at the Grace Apostolic Church. I realize I'm under the authority and the anointing of the bishop back there. So I'm not gonna say anything too crazy, But and so you have to have that sense of humility about your life in order for God. If you will humble yourself under His hand, He'll exalt you. And so it works. It's so wonderful how God did it for me, how He caused me to become a judge. Can I talk just a minute?
Go ahead.
I know I'm being interviewed, but I was working in the AG's office, and I never really thought seriously about being a judge because that meant I had to run for election. That's the last thing I wanted to do. but my attorney general said you should think about the judiciary, so I started applying. And I applied 5 times and never made the top 3. You had to make the top 3 to go to the governor. And I was in a big division. I had 25 people under me. I had economists and CPAs and lawyers and paralegals and legal secretaries under me. And somebody decided to move me to a smaller place. And I think they were mad at me about something, but they didn't tell me. I didn't lose any pay. So they put me in the smaller division. And at that time, Bishop Merritt was my pastor, and I told him about it, and he said, God's got something better for you. So, as it turned out, by virtue of being transferred to a smaller division, all the people in the bigger division, since I was no longer their supervisor, could write letters of recommendation for me to become a judge. And it was through that process that God caused all these people.
Amen.
And so, that's it.
Amen. And you talked a lot about God and your church involvement, being a Sunday school teacher. Many people in the room may not know that you're also a pastor here in the city in North Nashville. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I am a pastor. I'm pastor of Red Heaven Church, 2430 Jefferson Street. And I've been pastoring since January of 2007. And when I left Bishop Merritt, well, first of all, when I first went there, I knew I would be there 2 or 3 years. Before I set foot in the church, I sat down and talked to him. I said, Bishop Merritt, the Lord has led me to start a church. I want to tell you before I come over here. And I said, I'm not coming here to do anything unless you ask me to. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to influence anything. If there's any trouble in the church, you can guarantee Perkins is not going to be in it. But I need a place to sit. I need a place to listen. I need a little bit more seasoning. I've been praying about it for years, but I need some more seasoning. And so I was up front with him. And then when it got to be about a year from that, I wrote him a letter, a personal letter, sent it to his home. I didn't want a church secretary to get it, and some of the business come out. But I sent him a private letter to his home, and I said, Bishop Merritt, in about a year, and, he didn't say anything about it. I didn't know whether he got the letter or not. And then, next thing you know, Sunday school teacher, president of the missionary, all these kind of things start happening. And the lesson from that is, you really just, if you will submit yourself to biblical leadership, God will bless you. You don't have to covet somebody's position or anything like that. And so God blessed me. And so when it came time to leave, he got us in front of the congregation, blessed us, and sent us out. And so the church is on Jefferson Street. We're blessed. We've reached people we never would have met, or reached people have come in off the street and got baptized in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. So we thank God for that opportunity to minister in an area where, as far as I knew, they had never had an apostolic church.
Amen. One last question from us, Pastor Perkins. For any young person who's thinking about or has a desire to go into law, what are some good foundations that they should start on? What are some things that you could let them know, like this is what you need to watch out for, steer away from, this is what you should look at? What advice can you give to them?
Okay, first of all, stay with the Lord and listen to people who've been around. You might know more about technology and all that, but there's no substitute for real experience and years and years in the Word of God. And so listen to people. In terms of subject matter, one of the great things about law is you can major in art, you can major in European history, you can major in woodworking, and still be eligible to go to law school. So it doesn't matter specifically in terms of being able to go with your major in it. So the good part of that is if you haven't made up your mind when you go, then it won't hurt you if you majored in something unrelated to law. But if you know you want to pursue that before you begin, then you're ahead of the game. And then so you can take something like political science, but I think the best thing to have as a major or a minor if you're going to go to law school is English, because law school is about reading and writing, reading hundreds of pages a night, being able to analyze and synthesize it, being able to compare what you learned in September to what you learned in April, and then write essay answers on your exams that show that you know how to look at something on more than one side and explain your answer.
All right, thank you, Chancellor Perkins. Let's give it up for Chancellor Perkins at this time. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. We'll be right back with more guests on ETV. Thank you.
We are going to ask our next guest. He is the youngest one on the panel tonight. His name is Brother Jayden Logan. Let's give it up for Jayden. Come on, Brother Jayden. All right, Brother Jayden, we're not gonna tarry long, but we want to know some things about you. I know a few things about you. I want to just say this. Brother Jayden was our ring bearer in our wedding. He was a little 3-year-old, and now look at him. He's sitting up here getting ready to tell us some things about himself as it relates to church, and then he's going to give us some personal information that about him that is unrelated to church. So, Brother Jayden, I understand that you've been in church your whole life, right? Your whole life so far. Okay, and I want to ask you, we want to hear, what is your favorite thing about church?
I've been in church since I was like a baby, and I grew up in church, and I know church, and I like the people, the environment, and like the love that I get from this church.
Man, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. Brother Jayden, you attend the children's ministry here at this church, and we want to know what's your favorite part of children's church?
I get to develop more information about God and like goals and stuff that I get to develop more, and like when I go upstairs, I understand what they're talking about.
Wow, amen. Keep it up, those that are over the children's ministry. Y'all doing a good job, amen.
I have a question for you, Brother Jayden. You're actually involved in the service of the church. You're also an usher. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you like ushering in the church?
I like to work with peers. I usher with Brother Derek sometimes, and I like to help people in the church and serve God as in the church.
It's wonderful, Jayden. I just want you to know that. I got one more question for you. I don't know if you have it, but I got one more. Brother Jayden is a ball player, y'all. He's a ball player. He is. And he goes hard. I've seen him play. But tell us why you like basketball so much, and how did you actually get into it?
I can answer that. He likes it because of me.
His name Myah, he's just running with it now. But we want to hear from Jayden. How did you get into playing basketball?
Actually, I grew up with my big brother Max, and I used to stay on the porch and watch him play basketball a lot. And ever since then, I just started liking basketball.
That's cool.
Who's your favorite player?
James Harden.
Is that because he's a ball hog or what?
Because he's a lefty like me, and it's easier to take.
All right.
What position do you play?
Shooting guard.
Shooting guard. Who do you play for?
I played for Thurgood Marshall Middle School and
Before we wrap up, Jayden, I want you to, there's other young people out here. There's some that are right at your age, and then there's some that's a little younger than you. Can you just give an encouraging word to your peers?
Whatever you want to do in life, keep doing that. Don't let nobody tell you different. And if somebody tells you to be different, just be you. And keep God with you at all times.
Amen.
Everyone, let's give it up for Brother Jayden Logan. Stay tuned with us. Coming up next, you're going to hear from a cardiologist, an up-and-coming fashion designer, and a local brand new musical artist. We'll be right back after this.
All right, we're back. We're going to keep it going. The next person that's going to come up is Brother Reggie Key. Give it up for him, y'all.
Let's have a party over. That ain't nothing to think of.
So, Brother Reggie, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're going to break the ice a little bit. I know you're a little nervous, so we're going to break the ice a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, person, like a little bit about your background, your upbringing, what drew you to Nashville.
I'm a military brat. My father served about 23 years in the U.S. Army. So I spent some time right after birth in Germany for about 5 years before we came back to Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, where I finished out all of my schooling. I have one brother, older. I have a sister who's older than me as well. So I'm the youngest. Everybody says that I'm a mama's boy. I disagree. I love my mom. I love her so much, but me and my siblings, we always kind of joke about, who's the favorite, and I think that I'm always the favorite. One of the things I always tell them is, mom, they have my brother, they have my sister, but then they stopped after me because they were satisfied with but very family oriented. I love my family. I am here in Nashville now working. And one of the things that brought me here was the program here at Centennial, the heart program here. The providers there were trying to recruit me to come out. Where I was in Fayetteville at Cape Fear Valley, a smaller heart program that had 2 ORs in that program. And so we would only average about 250 to 300 open heart cases a year. Where here at Centennial, we're in excess of 1,200 open heart cases a year. So a very, very busy program. So we stayed very, very busy. And then even coming out here, I was able to get some additional training and some new procedures. One of the partners there, Dr. Kumar, he's real big on mitral valve replacement. And he always jokes about how he came here to build this mitral valve empire. He wants to do all the mitral valves in the Nashville area. And so to come out and be able to train with him and to work with him has been a blessing to me in my practice. When it comes to mitral valve replacements, we were actually in Nashville last week at Emory University training to do our first robotic-assisted mitral valve replacement, which we did on this past Monday. Case went very, very well. The patient's doing very, very well. Looking to be discharged probably about tomorrow.
Just so I can understand, is that where an actual robot was operating instead of a human?
Yes.
I don't know how I feel about that.
No. With robotic surgery, depending on the case, well, all robotic surgery, the robot is a little more precise than a human would be. You're a human. You're not perfect. And trying to operate on the heart sometimes, your dexterity might not be all that well. If I drink coffee, my dexterity is completely off. I'm shaking, and you don't want me trying to operate on your heart while my hands are shaking. That's not a good combination. But the robot's going to be a lot more precise in some of the dexterity movements that a human would normally do.
So, what made you want to take up cardiology?
I always had an interest in it. My freshman year in high school, I took biology, and when we dissected frogs the first time, it was like, that did something to me. When I took that scalpel and made that incision, I mean, something just clicked. And people always say, why do you get joy out of cutting on people? Like something has to be like wrong with you mentally to enjoy cutting on people. And to some degree, I do agree with that. I think one of my anatomy and physiology professors, Dr. Fiedler, when I think back on him, something was really wrong with that guy. Like seriously, he wasn't right in the head. I mean, he knew his stuff, but something was just kind of like off. And so I kind of evaluate myself. Maybe there is a little something wrong with me that I enjoy cutting on people. And when we're in the OR, whenever we start a case, one of the last things we do before we start is we do what's called a timeout. Timeout is where the nurse gets the chart. She states the patient's name and date of birth, and they'll ask the procedure. We'll say, for instance, if it's a coronary artery bypass, we'll say coronary artery times 3 or 4, however we're going to do, and just to verify that everybody in the room is on the same page, why we're here, what we're doing, what side we're going to be working on if that's the case. And then after the timeout, when we say everybody says we agree, and I take the scalpel, it's just like so much life to me. I just love making the decision. It's great.
Brother Reggie, sometimes we see you come in straight from work in your scrubs, and I joke with you sometimes like Reggie, kiss of sleep. And sometimes you come in, you get on Sunday, you get on an organ, and you just came straight from the hospital. Can you tell us what a typical work day looks like for you?
Typical work day for me, I'm normally in the hospital between 6:15 and 6:30 in the morning. Once I get there, get myself situated, I'll go over to pre-op and see my first patient. Basically go in to say, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? Blah, blah, blah. And then we'll do also a small timeout in pre-op as well. Just while the patient's conscious, okay, what are we doing for you today? So that way we're on the same page before we get you to the OR. To get everybody else on the same page, so they'll say, hey, I'm here, have a bypass surgery today. All right, cool. Just to make sure that they know why they're here, what we're doing for them that day. Once I leave pre-op, I make a rush over to the OR. Whenever I do EVH, which is endoscopic vein harvest on bypass cases, I'm a little OCD in the OR. So whenever I do my own harvest, when I take the esophagus vein from the leg to do the bypass, I kind of want to make sure that I'm the only one that's touching the setup. Very, very OCD. Our surgical techs are very, very great. They're very professional, but I'm a little OCD, so I like to make sure that's set up the way I want it set up, so that way when I go to do my harvest, everything's the way I want it. So once I leave the OR, I'll typically go over to our cardiac ICU unit, and I'll do what's called, I'll round on those patients there, make sure that, get the report from the night before, and talk to the intensivist if we want to send those patients from ICU to our step-down unit, or if we want to discharge them a few days later. I'll do my rounding and then head back to the OR to get ready to do my first surgery.
Now, again, our theme for the show is no compromising. You just gave us pretty much what your workday looks like, but we know that you're also involved in the ministry here at Grace Apostolic Church. How has your faith, your relationship helped balance you in your work life? Because I know sometimes every case doesn't come out successfully, and sometimes you have to break some bad news to some families. How has your faith kind of stabilized you mentally and emotionally dealing with it?
For me, I think I always try to consider the fact that I'm I'm not God. And I know some surgeons have this God complex, and I've actually heard some say that they are God. I mean, if you think about it, when you're able to actually go into someone's chest and do all this work with the heart, and in some cases where it does turn out to be a successful case, you know, you can kind of get puffed up, like, you know, look what I did, you know, look what I was able to accomplish. So some have that God complex. Me, I try to remain humble, even when things, you know, go well. It's like, man, this is a perfect case, you know. There's always a sense of humility for me. So I don't try to play God. Even when, excuse me, even when cases come up and patient's not doing too well, you'll have some surgeons that'll say, you know, well, I'm not going to operate. And then one of my partners, Dr. Kumar that I talked about earlier, he's one of those types that if he doesn't like to play God either, and if he can do whatever he can to save a patient, whether or not it'll turn out well or not, he's going to go for it. I'm not that risky. If the mortality rate's a little too high, I'm not going to do it. I'll pass it on to somebody else, because having those conversations with patients' families when things don't go so well, it's a very tough conversation to have. I mean, prior to surgery, you let them know, here are the chances of your the outcome. And in some cases, if it's an emergency, you go ahead and go for it. But still having to have those conversations is very, very difficult. For me, it's even before I operate, I always pray. I have that time to myself to where I pray and ask God to cover everybody in the room. And even some patients, their families will ask you to pray with them who are spiritual. And some can even pick it out and see, something in you, like, there's something different about you. Can you pray with me? And I'll go ahead and pray with them that everything goes well. Those conversations are difficult to have, especially when you lose a patient, especially in cardiac surgery after sometimes we work 24 hours plus. I work a full entire day. I might finish up at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, get home, and then get called back in for an aortic dissection. And those cases take 6 to 8 hours sometimes. And so I'm there into the early hours of the morning the next day, and I'm tired, weary, then to lose that patient after working 8-10 hours on a dissection, and then the patient ends up passing away. It's a little rough. It's like almost like we did all this work for nothing, only for them to pass away, and then to still have to go talk to the family and say, hey, you lost your loved one. It's pretty tough, but I always look to God, who is my strength, and God knows I need a lot of strength from Him.
Amen. And this is really good. This is really good because a lot of times we're the patient, so we don't really know how emotionally your job is as doctors can be, and how much of a mental toll it can take on you. One last thing, we're gonna let you go. I saw you come up here with a case. You're not planning on operating on anybody.
No. Okay. One of the reasons why I wanted to go into cardiac surgery is because when I got to undergrad, that's when Grey's Anatomy had first come out, and so I'm sitting here watching Grey's and seeing how they do things in Shepherd and Isaiah Thomas played one of the. He was a cardiac surgeon, right? One of them was either Shepherd but anyway, I would see them, and I would see that when they would go into surgery, they would have their light head handle on their head, and then they'd have these glasses on. And I'm like, what are those glasses? And then when I did more research and found out they were actually called surgical loops. And what surgical loops do is, especially when you're working in cardiac surgery, you're working with small veins, you're working with small arteries, and so it's kind of hard to see with the naked eye. So this is the pair of loops that I have that I use when I operate, and what it does is they're pretty much telescopes. So I can put them on, and then they're basically enhances what I see. So when I'm looking at a small artery in their heart, when we make the arteriotomy into the heart, I put the loops on and it actually magnifies what I see. So that's one of the reasons why I did want to go into cardiac surgery specifically, because man, I want to wear some of those cool loops. I want to wear some of those cool loops. So those are a pair that I normally wear when I do aortic work or mitral valve work. I have others that I wear when we do coronary artery bypass cases. So yeah, just want to show you guys these. Some of my loops, sometimes they get a little bloody, sometimes they're clean right now. But sometimes, yeah, they get a little bloody, a little dirty, but that's the first pair of loops that I've ever had. So I think I got those when I was doing some training at Duke, I believe. So.
Well, good stuff, Reggie. Thank you for being on the show. Stay with us. When we come back, you're going to hear from an up-and-coming fashion designer. We'll be right back.
Also known as Charities, as in t-shirts. She is an entrepreneur and she has her own clothing line. Let's clap our hands as she come on down.
All right, so Charity, tell us a little bit about your fashion background. What made you want to get into fashion and designing?
Ever since I was younger, I just had a different style about me. Like just the way I dressed, even did my hair, I just always was kind of like different, kind of out of the box. And I used to just print shirts by hand just for fun, for pep rallies and just for church events. And then a friend of the family, she was like, "You should make that a business, like you're really creative." Okay, and so, bam, Charities.
Charity, I've purchased some of your stuff before, and I love it. I love the copy and paste. I have a copy and paste shirt for, I'm copy Ava's Paste t-shirts, and I've even got some tutus from you, which we rocked last year for annual youth weekend. Can you tell us who helped you design your clothes? I know that I think your daughters do some stuff.
Yes, so my daughters do the tutus. They, Brooklyn, she's right there. She wanted to be, she said, "Mommy, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to start my own business." And so she started doing tutus and tennis shoes, so that's where that came from. But my inspiration came from, of course, mom, and I know we got a lot of moms out here, and just trying to find affordable clothing, but still this modest and holy. And sometimes it's hard going into the store. I know for me, just to find a decent skirt that's not too short, too tight. So that's where my inspiration came, but still trying to find myself and have my fashion and what I like to look like. So that's where my inspiration came from.
Amen. And speaking of fashion, I believe you brought a one and only design with this. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this is one of my designs. So again, I'm talking about affordable fashion, which I am different. I like to get out of the box. So I love Goodwill. I love Goodwill. It's affordable, but yeah, I can go in there and find things and then change it into what I like. 2018, I launched a brand called Metamorphosis, and it came from because just like God, and God, we have to go through stages and changes, and that's what my that brand is about. It goes from, where the state that it first starts at, and then once I put my design on it, it's metamorphosized into Charities or design. So this hoodie was at Goodwill. I paid $4 for it. I turned it inside out. I did the white splashes by hand, and then I just put Chosen on the front. And then this skirt was just purchased there for $2, and I was able to create a whole outfit. It was affordable, didn't break the bank, and I'm still modest, holy, and fashionable.
Amen.
Can you tell us you can get some of your stuff?
Yes. So right now I use social media heavily. In the future, I desire to have a website, but for now I use Facebook, Instagram. My Instagram is Charities Fashion 101, so you can do that, and then just personal. I like personal contact because I like to know what the customer wants, exactly how they like it, even for us to, even if we have to meet up, and so I can see your body type and really just have that direct contact. So you can follow me on Instagram, again, at Charities Fashion 101.
All right. Charity, you have someone else here rocking your stuff. We want to see them.
Yeah, so Ashley's going to change, but I just remembered, my sister just remembered this, what I have on. So I designed this. So what I did was, the bottom is a t-shirt, just a regular t-shirt that I bought for $3. And so, and this is a hoodie that I paid $6 for. And so I cut the bottom. The sleeves are made from the bottom of the hood, of the sweatshirt. The sleeves from the t-shirt are tucked in, and that's where my pockets is. And then this was designed on there. So I made me a whole outfit for under $20.
How creative is that?
Very fluid.
Wow.
Very fluid. So the fashion trends of today, they change like the wind. Do you usually change your fashions based on how you feel, or is it pretty much straight across the board? You pretty much don't change or alter your fashion much?
Well, just like I try to teach my daughters, I do know there's fashion trends, and I do like to stay up on fashion, but I don't really try to follow fashion trends because I try to teach my kids all the time to dare to be different. So sometimes, I mean, I don't have a certain look, it's just really how I feel. So even that's how I try to design what's fit for me, because what somebody else can think is not really cute, I can think is cute, but as long as I like it and I wear it with confidence, that's really all that matters. So I just try to go with the person, and that's how I try to teach my kids. You know, as long as you wear it with confidence. I mean, I've wore plaids and polka dots before, but I wear it with confidence. And when you do that and you exude that confidence, then people feel confident. Oh, I really love that. So to me, it's not really about the outfit per se, but it's how you wear it.
Here comes another one of your designs. I see scripture. What's that skirt?
So the top she's wearing is, again, a t-shirt that was cut and sewed onto another t-shirt. And then the skirt were jeans, again, that I bought at Goodwill. And I just just put all those materials together, and it was sewed. And then I added, that's by hand, the Psalms 21, because I have a new brand coming out soon called Covered, which covered the Word of God. So this is that skirt, and it's just some patchwork, and again, this outfit was probably, again, under $20.
That's nice.
And I really do love how you get a lot of inspiration from the Word of God, and you make that your foundation and your base. And we want to thank you for taking time out to share with us even your journey as far as fashion, and to know that you can be saved, holy, and be fashionable and not expensive at the same time. I think that's the best. Thank you once again, Charity, for coming on the show. When we come back, we're going to hear from a local producer and a new musical artist. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to YTV. Our last and final guests are a local producer and musical artist who actually got their start in music at a very young age, and now they are climbing the ranks at a rapid pace. Please welcome at this time Chris Mundy, Kayla Perez, and Myah Perez. Now, welcome to the show, guys. As many of you may or may not know, these are also relatives of ours. These are cousins of ours, but you all are actually, Kayla and Chris are brother and sister, and Myah is your daughter. Both of you all are musically gifted in your own right. But tell us a little bit about your musical backgrounds. Kayla, I'll start with you.
Praise the Lord, everybody. Praise the Lord. I grew up here in this church, so this is home. So my musical background basically came from watching my parents, my mom and my family, and even some of you who were in the choir at Grace. So just seeing back in the day when choirs were a big thing, just watching, coming to choir rehearsal week after week. I was at every choir rehearsal with my mom every Thursday, watching. And so a lot of my inspiration came from watching my mom, my grandmother, who were both, heavily into music, directing and singing. So I would say that's basically where, in short, where my musical background comes from.
All right, Chris?
So my background, much like Kayla, comes from this church. Born and raised pretty much on the pews of Grace Apostolic Church. So how I've gotten my gift, I believe it's through the blood. My entire family is musically gifted. They either sing or play or do something in between. So I started playing the keyboard around five or six, something like that, and officially started playing in the church at age 12.
Kayla, you all have produced a beautiful song that you wrote entitled The Best Gift. Can you tell us a little bit about that song and what inspired it?
Sure. The song actually came to me unexpectedly. Much like I'm sure many of you, anybody sing in the shower? I'm sure a lot of people sing in the shower.
All the time.
Yeah, okay. So I'm glad I'm not by myself. A lot of my songs, for some reason, come to me when I'm getting dressed up, getting ready. Songs come to me. So the song actually came to me. I was just in my morning worship, morning devotion time, like I do every morning. And the song came to me, and it was around Thanksgiving time. So it was getting ready to be like the Christmas season. And I started just thinking about how good God was. And just really thinking about, I was actually thinking about the gifts and things that I had to give my children. But while I was doing that, I started thinking about how Jesus is ultimately the best gift. Like regardless of what I could give, there is nothing that tops God's gift to us. And so the song just basically came from that. And so I always want people to know that no matter what, Jesus is the gift that keeps on giving, no matter what. This is a Christmas song, but if you're like me, sometimes I play Christmas year-round, just depending on what it is. And so Jesus has always been the best gift and always will be.
Amen. Amen.
And Myah, pass her the mic, because we got a question for Myah. Because she was on that project too, and we want to know what it was like for you to work with your mom and your uncle.
It was really fun and exciting because I really wanted to go to the studio and do different songs and stuff when I grow up.
So, do you see yourself behind the mic in your near future? Cool. Kayla, one more question here, and I have a question for Chris. Nashville is a melting pot for musicians, artists, producers. What made you decide to put the confidence in your brother Chris and go with Chris as your producer?
Well, I think it's relationship. So me and my brother have a really good relationship. And from the time we were younger, people don't know this, but I wrote songs and I would make my own beats, just sit there and make up songs. And then when I found out he was musically inclined, then I started using Chris. So I would write the lyrics and then Chris would make the beats and songs. And we joke, we used to have a voicemail and there was a record button. And we would press the record button at the house and literally people would like play the drums, make the beats, and I would sing on it. So we built that relationship over the years. And any song or idea that I have, my brother's good about going ahead and putting music to it. So I'll tell him like the concept and he has the music. It just flows. So I called him, told him what it was. I think we were at church when I first told him about the song. And he caught on to it. I don't think I even saw the potential in the song. I thought it was just me just making up another song. And he was like, no, like, you know, we can do something with this. And he put music to it and worked his magic. And from there it was a hit.
And Chris, take us behind the scenes as a producer. What are some things that you've encountered and learned producing this album and possible others?
So like you were saying, Nashville is a huge music city. So with that, studio time and getting connection, it all becomes expensive. So I knew that it would be a whole lot cheaper if I invested in myself and got the equipment myself and did everything myself. So with that, there's software called Logic. So basically, I did pretty much the whole format of the project. With that, there's a lot of resources that you need in producing. You gotta have the singers, you gotta connect with the musicians, you gotta connect with engineers. So I think that's a huge deal when it comes with producing music. Another thing I would say is patience. You're not gonna have something down pat the first time. There are many times and many nights and hours where I stay up and work on just one part for hours and hours. And to most people, they're like, why are you just working on that one piece or one part of the project? And I noticed that being a musician and being a producer is completely two different things, and it really allowed me to focus a lot on detail.
Can we expect anything from you all in the coming months?
Maybe. There's actually another song that we wrote, that I wrote maybe about a year or two ago that we still probably need to get into the studio and produce. So hopefully this year, and definitely more writing. And we're just more so now trying to find the time to connect with being busy with jobs and church and home life. So just trying to balance that, but definitely look for something.
And tell us how we can get the best gift, the one that you already found.
So the best gift, so you can find it on all digital outlets, YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple Music, everything, and it will be by Kayla Perez.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back to close out the show, we're going to hear a live performance of the best gift from Kayla Perez. Stay tuned.
How many know that God is the best gift that you've ever received? Can I get a witness? Yes, Jesus is the best gift that we've ever received. You all pray for us, amen? It's been a long time. It's the season of giving. It's the season of cheer. It's the season to celebrate, adore, and appreciate a love that is dear. It's the season for presents tucked under the tree. But of all of the gifts that I put on my list, none compare to the King. What a gift you gave on this Christmas day. What a gift you gave on this
cheer. It's the season to celebrate, adore and appreciate a love that is dear.
It's the season.
It's a present
Under the tree.
tucked under the tree.
Out of all of the gifts.
But of all of the good on the good,
None compared
to the King. What a gift you gave on this Christmas day. What a gift you gave on this Christmas day.
What a
gift you gave
on this Christmas day. What a gift you gave on this Christmas day. I know this is just a youth service, but can we just worship the Lord? Can we lift our hands and just worship Him? He truly is the best gift that we ever could receive. Hallelujah. We honor you, Jesus.
You are the best gift.
Yes, you
You
are.
are the best gift.
You are the best gift.
You are the best gift.
Oh, you are.
You are the best gift.
You are the best gift.
You are the best gift.
That I've ever received.
You are the best gift.
Oh, yes, you are. Oh, you are the best gift.
You are the best gift.
That I've ever received.
You are the best gift.
Oh, you are the best gift.
Behold, the virgin shall bear a child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us.
You gave us the best gift we ever could receive, yes. You gave us the best gift we ever could receive. And you help me say, you gave the best gift we ever could receive. In the form of your son Jesus, you gave us we ever could receive. Oh, you gave us the best gift we ever could receive. Yes, you gave us what a gift you gave on this Christmas day. What a gift you gave on this Christmas day. Come on, let's clap your hands for Jesus. He's the gift that is so given. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you so much.
Let's give it up one more time for Kayla Perez. And y'all may have seen Sister Amber, Sister Jimmyra up here. They were actually background singers on that single. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Josh Baker was actually on the organ as well. So let's give it up for him as well. Got to get my co-host to stay by my side. We want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Once again, let's give it up for all of our guests that came on the talk show. Perkins, Reggie Key, Kayla Perez, Charity, Jayden Logan. We want to thank you for coming out tonight for another episode of Ye TV. Is there anything else you want to say?
Youth Empowerment.
empowerment. Amen.
Amen. God bless y'all.